In the last video, I shared with you my thoughts after my first ever playthrough of the first game in the Sonic the Hedgehog series. Today, I continue my journey through this absolute titan of a classic video game series with Sonic the Hedgehog 2. In case this is your first time watching me, I'll give a brief overview of my experience with these games. I grew up mildly interested in the Blue Blur, watching an episode of Sonic X here and there. I've seen all 3 live-action movies, and I quite like them, and before this game, I've only played a little bit of Secret Rings, a little bit of Mania, and I've recently finished Colors, Sonic 1, and now this game. And wow, I gotta say, this is my favorite so far by a lot. This game improved upon the first in almost every single way. I enjoyed the first game a fair amount for what it was, despite its age, and to say that this one blows it out of the water is an understatement. From new mechanics to new and improved level design and even more incredible bosses, Sonic 2 nearly has it all. The most glaring addition is the adorable Tails, Sonic's new best friend, who follows and aids you on your mission to bring down Dr. Robotnik's, totally not a Star Wars reference, Death Egg. Tails typically follows your movements such as running, jumping, and spin dashing, but he can also collect rings for you and even fly with his tails and carry you through the air. These new abilities the Genius Fox brings you are a joy and make the game not only easier but more fun. Flying can allow you to reach places previously unimaginable, and although I really didn't use it properly, can even trivialize certain segments. Tails jumping along with you can also make boss fights go way faster than before, because he does damage by jumping just like you do. It's safe to say he was the original helpful fox, and I love having him with me on my adventures. I believe the spin dash was also first introduced in this one, but I played the Origins versions of these games on classic mode, so Sonic 1 already had that for me. The special stages and the way they're accessed are also completely new and improved. You no longer have to carry 50 rings with you to the end of an extremely unfair stage riddled with surprise traps and enemies. Now, you only have to carry them to a checkpoint and jump into the sparkling ring on top, giving you sometimes multiple chances per level for a Chaos Emerald. The stages themselves, while still a little janky at times, actually make sense now. You simply collect enough rings for each round and avoid the spike balls that totally don't come from nowhere ever and keep you from getting the emerald by one measly ring.
One ring! One ring! One ring!
Of course, none of this prevented me from failing to get more than 3 emeralds by the end of the game. Still way more than I had at the end of the first one, but sadly still not enough. Partially because the game still has some of those patented crotchety old man moments I mentioned in the last video, and partially because apparently I'm still stupid enough to run into the same trap 3 times in a row.
Gosh, I can't believe they put that trap in the same place 3 times in a row. I mean, seriously, who does that?
Ugh, why did I choose to start following this buffoon?
Oh man, I should have listened to you, Tails.
Whoa, you think?
But back on the crotchety old man moments for a second, Sonic 2 is much better about these than Sonic 1. They're much fewer and much less noticeable, but oh boy are they definitely still there. 100 minus 30 is still a whole 70, you know? I still can't keep track of all the moments where the game just totally screwed me over unfairly, but the rest of the game is so good I can forgive it more this time around. This game's crowning achievement in unfairness, however, is the last 3 bosses back to back. The boss of the Wing Fortress zone was terrible and felt next to impossible to avoid getting hit by. It locks you in a tiny space with floating spiked platforms and a laser overhead that you have to hit carefully between shots, which then bounces you back to the spikes. Ugh. Even if you somehow manage to get through it with rings intact, which I did not, when you get to the Death Egg zone, it takes them all away anyway, and forces you to fight the last 2 bosses in succession with no rings. This would be fine if they were ordinary bosses, but oh no, they are far from it. You have to fight Mecha Sonic, who on his own isn't that bad. Aside from incredibly weird hitboxes on his quills, there's what feels like a pixel difference between him taking damage and your instant death. Then, Once you get past him, you fight the Death Egg robot. I hate this boss. It took me so long to figure out how to actually damage it because every time I died I had to fight Mecha Sonic again. The spikes on his hands are ridiculously particular and largely felt like even a pixel of a spike touching you, or not even that, would result in going back to the start. So, after half an hour or so, I finally started just taking hits that were guaranteed, and once I learned how to beat the both of them, they weren't too bad. Mecha Sonic being one of my favorite bosses actually. Sonic 2 had a lot of my favorite things so far. I mentioned earlier that the level design was new and mostly improved, and I wasn't kidding. For the most part, you can tell they really started to gain footing in this one, because going fast is much better integrated into the levels, and there was quite a few moments where I was having a blast just running through. Even Green Hill Zone was improved upon with Emerald Hill Zone. Chemical Plant Zone in particular was incredible with this. The new lane swapping mechanics make some levels feel multi-dimensional, and these sections do a great job at making you feel unstoppable. They even did a better water level with Aquatic Ruin Zone, though that still had its questionable moments. At least you could actually get bubbles in this one. Casino Night makes even more creative use of the physics engine, utilizing your momentum from your own movement and the bounces to allow you to soar through and feel like a pinball. There's even some hidden zones, only one of which I found in the Mystic Cave Zone. I certainly wasn't expecting to fall into a totally different level, and at the time I thought it was scripted, but after some research I found out that it wasn't the only one, and I'd like to go back and find the rest at some point. Speaking of Mystic Cave, in my opinion, it's the perfect example of the sequel's visuals and sounds still being top-notch. The music from Mystic Cave is some of my favorite so far. It really makes me feel like I'm going on a mystical adventure through a mysterious land. The levels are just as, if not even more, gorgeous than before, with even more detailed design and visual storytelling. Once again, Mystic Cave is ridiculously beautiful and awe-inspiring, but the vibrant colors of the Emerald Hill and Chemical Plant zones, the desolate wastes of Oil Ocean, and the mechanical star-filled expanse of the small portion of Death Egg that we get are all incredible and atmospheric, especially for the time. Sonic continues to amaze me with its timeless visuals and sounds, and I can't wait to see how they keep getting better as the series continues. Overall, Sonic 2 improved upon the first in a whole host of ways, but does still have plenty of room to grow. Room I hear that Sonic 3 may have potentially filled, but we'll see when I get there. I would like to go back through and get all the Chaos Emeralds, since there's actually a reward this time. Looks at editor. It's exciting thinking about finally getting to try Super Sonic. Maybe I'll include a bit about it in another video if I do it. I rated the first game a 6, and I think this one is a 7.5 for me. This game has me very excited about the rest of this journey, so be on the lookout for my next video in this series, where I'll be playing through and sharing my thoughts on Sonic CD. As always, you can follow me on Twitch to watch these playthroughs live, follow me on Instagram for info on when I'll be streaming, and if you happen to miss a stream, you can check out my VOD channel here on YouTube. All these links in the description. Thanks again for listening to me share my thoughts on another game most people have played decades ago. Hope you enjoyed, and have a wonderful day.